Putting back the pieces after the December 28 quake remains one of the greatest challenges for the engineering profession. Ian Pedersen was one of the first people to offer structural advice to police and rescue personnel at the collapsed Newcastle Workers' Club site. He was called on to assist Kevin Waller during the coronial inquest into the deaths of 13 people during the earthquake. When the city centre was closed, Ian Pedersen was a member of the Council's Select Committee, which reviewed the safety of buildings before allowing people back into the CBD. That work was honoured today when the Institution of Engineers named him the National Professional Engineer for 1990. A principal with consultants Rankin and Hill, Pedersen used the occasion to fire a broadside at current building standards. And in a unique double honour, a local engineer was named Young Australian Engineer of the Year. David Peavy works with Newcastle City Council and has created a computer pavement management system. The program tells decision makers the state of roads, the best maintenance options and how to get value for money from a limited budget.
Today, security man Carl Scott's worst nightmares came true. At around 9:45 this morning, he parked his worm-old van outside the Commonwealth Bank in Belmont. He barely had time to get out before a gun was put to his head.
He was approached by two armed offenders with handguns and demanded to hand over the cash box, which he did. They then came to this rear car park, attempt to escape. However, they were foiled by another motorist who placed his car in front of theirs.
The thieves panicked and ran from the car park, leaving behind a strongbox containing the weekend takings from the Belmont 16-footers club and a bag containing 2 loaded pistols and a brown wig. Police caught and arrested a man outside these George Street units less than 100 metres away from the abandoned vehicle. His alleged accomplice somehow managed to slip through the police cordon and was last seen behind the Belmont Sportsman's Club near Carl Oval. While the police search continued, Belmont detectives interviewed and charged a 46-year-old Sydney man with armed robbery and larceny of a motor vehicle. Bruce McKenzie, NBN News.
Piers Johnson of Sweden and Sean Moran of the United States finished level on 13 points after the heats and went to a write-off. Johnson with the red helmet won the start, and from there on it was catch me if you can. Moran tried every trick in the book, but it wasn't good enough to oust Johnson, and the Swede was declared the 1990 World Solo Speedway champion after a thrilling series. For Todd Wiltshire of Newcastle, a finish beyond his wildest dreams, and now this placing must give him great confidence for the years ahead.
NIB health funds began in Newcastle 38 years ago as Newcastle Industrial Benefits, with less than 1,400 members and an annual income of $32,000. Today, the organisation covers New South Wales and the ACT, with more than 192,000 contributors and a projected income this year of $150 million. It is a success story that has made it the 6th largest health fund and the fastest growing in Australia. Today was a chance for Newcastle to honour the company with the prestigious Enterprise Award. Past winners include Carrington Slipways, the Hunter Valley Research Foundation and the Newcastle Knights. This year saw the largest number of nominations submitted since the award's inception in 1978.
It must be remembered that we had 11 excellent nominations, all showing the criteria that are required to win this event. So NIB just that little bit better overall.
And as for the company's secret for success, it's apparently quite simple.
They like to use bank branches and so on, which obviously would be, I assume, a cost saving for themselves, but it just once again shows enterprise that they are trying to find ways of operating at what would be an economical level, therefore a benefit to the client.
As the reigning champions, Victoria are entitled to field 2 teams at this year's carnival, and so far they are both undefeated. Vic 1 thrashed the ACT yesterday and Tasmania this morning without dropping a rubber, while Vic 2 beat South Australia 12-4 yesterday and Queensland 16-0 today. New South Wales haven't won the Eid Clendening Team Shield since 1961, but have begun this year's event in fine style. With a 16-0 thumping of Queensland already under its belt, the Blues took on South Australia today, and a short time ago were leading the Crow Eaters 12 rubbers to 2 and were ahead in both remaining mixed doubles matches. Western Australia were also in good form on Sunday with a 16-0 whitewash of Tasmania, and their clash with Vic 1 tonight should be a classic. The one remaining match this evening is between Tasmania and the ACT.
What started as a minor road accident on the New England highway has turned into a manhunt involving more than 30 tactical response police and special weapons operations squad. A 28-year-old Sydney woman was shot in the head as she returned to her car after talking to the driver of a 1974 Datsun. A semi-trailer driver who witnessed the incident rammed the gunman's car as he tried to flee the scene. Police believe they know the gunman, described as 22 years old, 190 centimetres tall, medium build, green eyes and a fair complexion. He was wearing a dark blue shirt and pale blue jeans. Police say the man is dangerous and possibly carrying at least 3 weapons.
We've now ascertained that there are, apart from a shotgun being missing, 2 .303 rifles and some ammunition missing from a house that we know this person was at earlier in the evening.
It was expert advice with a capital E at the National Park today as Commonwealth Games 400-metre champ Darren Clark took the time to check the technique of the region's finest primary school athletes. A believer in the theory that great runners are first born, then made even better, Clark knows the value of correct early coaching and has a gold medal to prove it.
If you're taught bad techniques at an early age, it is very, very hard to get out of them as you get older. So that's why it's very important today that we, get some good teachers out here and give the kids some encouragement.
The children involved were hand-picked from local schools, and their standard won critical approval from the nation's biggest track hero.
There's plenty of kids that have got lots of talent here today, but that's just not enough to get them to the Olympic Games. They have to groom them and polish them up for later on in their career.
It was a day when sprinters matched strides with high jumpers, who in turn took on the hurdlers. Clark says diversity is the key to avoiding the dreaded burnout syndrome.
I think it's important for younger kids to, experience a wide range of events and do as many, types of things as possible, and not just athletics but other sports as well. And then as they get older, around 15 years of age, then they can start specialising in, individual events.
Over the past few days, Newcastle has focused on its ethnic community, with Carnivale 90 celebrations centred on Beaumont Street, Hamilton. But while established groups remember their colourful backgrounds in countries like Greece, Spain, Holland and the Tongan Islands, potential new migrants have not been forgotten. Out of 1.5 million annual applications, only 150,000 new migrants settle each year in Australia. It is these who Neil Hitchcock aims to help. His factual guidebook, the first of its kind to be written, was born out of extensive experience in immigration affairs.
It could be something as simple as a young Australian individual over in the UK who falls in love with a UK girl and wants to marry her and wants her to get a visa for her and doesn't know what to do. It can help as a book with much more complicated things, but even something as simple as that book could be very helpful.
The book was launched by Violetta Walsh, coordinator of Newcastle's Migrant Resource Centre. It will be printed in different languages and updated annually.
Heading the list is Jeff Cook of the Australian indoor cricket team. World title barefoot water skier Ken Derry skimmed into selection, and silver medal powerlifter David Vaughan will be putting his strength toward a push for the finals. The Australian World Championship equestrian team of Ros Ryan, Vicky Roycroft, Terry Wood and Rod Ryan is in the running, as well as cyclist Dave Perry, team member for the World Cycling titles in Japan. Solo Speedway champion Todd Wiltshire is in full throttle for the title, with champion jockey Robert Thompson riding high with his selection. Surf lifesaving star Melissa Thurlow has gained selection, along with 10-pin bowler Sharon McLeish and Australian Open amateur golf champ Wayne Stewart. Don Brook, Maurice Nesbitt and Jan Kobia of the Australian World Cup shooting team also have their sights set on the title. Final selections will be announced in December before the glittering presentation night in January.
The Brisbane tanker pulled up on the highway at Talia Road outside Raymond Terrace shortly after 6 o'clock this morning when the driver discovered acid was leaking from a corroded valve at a rate of 1 litre an hour. Emergency services remained on standby while the driver called for a second tanker from Sydney to decant the contents. A police rescue crew provided a generator powering a roadside pump. The operation was completed shortly after midday. The highway remained open throughout the operation, and police said only a small quantity of the acid had escaped.
The exhibition was opened by the Dean of Newcastle, Dean Lawrence, and Artistic Director Philip Mathias as a preview to the Cathedral's third and most ambitious festival. It features the unique work of Englishman David Fanshawe, who spent many years travelling through Africa, recording the music of different tribes, something that was often a difficult and challenging task. These are the best of thousands of photographs taken during the trip. They and an audio-visual display will be transferred to the Cathedral when the festival begins on the 20th of this month. Selections of the music were merged with a choral version of the traditional Latin Mass to become the world-famous African Sanctus. On September the 22nd, it will feature 85 Hunter singers and musicians, including soprano soloist from the Australian Opera, Sue Hart.
I have to reach great heights in this particular piece. Not only me, but the whole chorus is involved in that. Everybody is stretched right up to their upper limits. And it's, yes, it's very challenging indeed. Also exciting.
The policy applies to land within a 1 kilometre strip from the low water mark and extends 3 nautical miles out to sea. Sand mining will be restricted in undeveloped areas and high-rise building developments banned.
As a broad rule, the presumption will be against anything going more than 4 storeys.
Beaches adjacent to national parks and state recreation reserves will be designated Crown land for the people of the state and controlled by the Parks and Wildlife Service. The policy will not apply to built-up urban areas or have effect on existing developments. However, Mr Moore says it should establish a framework for future development applications within local council jurisdictions.
The publication of this policy means that any council that wants to breach or seek an exemption from it has to have the consent of the Director of Planning. They can't just do it within the powers that are available to the local council under their present local environment plan or something of that nature. It says if you want to go outside this policy, you will require the consent of the Director of Planning. You're not allowed to do it yourself under the existing rights that you might have as a local council.
Peavy went into the fight knowing next to nothing about the Brazilian, and while he spent the first round on the back pedal, Diaz unloaded his best shots to the body. The early pace was frantic, and by round 3 the contest was looking like a barroom brawl. But Peavy kept his cool and occasionally switched to a southpaw stance to keep the Brazilian off balance. The tactic worked to perfection, and as the Diaz stamina began to wane, the local boy went to work. By round 9, the result was a foregone conclusion, and Peavy moved in for the kill. It was a polished performance by the Cardiff fighter, who later admitted the switch in stance was the telling factor.
I knew when I turned southpaw. Once I turned southpaw the first time, he didn't know what to do because he's a southpaw himself, see, so that's why I stayed southpaw most of the fight.
Peavy now seems destined for a shot at a national title and a step up in the prize money stakes.
Craig Morty mentioned about Mad Dog Miller getting his title relinquished or taken off him, and so I'd rather win the Australian title first, get more money there.
His other option is a return bout with Renato Cornet, a match-up shorter pack the Cardiff Workers' Club. Bruce Mackenzie, NBN News.
I'll keep it tight. Thanks very much.